we're busy doing other stuff, but we got work that we need to do on the inside. And I'm like, I'm leaning into it. I'm like, dang, I thought I was gonna be able to rest like everybody else. And God's like, nah, we got work to do.
You know what? And I think that's what everybody is saying about 2020. It's demanding that we be better. And you said it's a global timeout. What do you mean by that?
Yeah,
Hey
it's like
guys,
everyone sit
just
down, sit
watching.
down, be humble, to quote the great prophet Kendrick Lamar. But like, no, seriously, sit down and let's reevaluate some things. Let us unearth and shake up the things that we have been
There's
trying to
barely anyone
hide
in this one.
within ourselves, within our nation. I think America is going through an unraveling right now, a much needed, a much necessary one, and I think all eyes on us, right? There is no, oh, I was on the subway for an hour, so I didn't miss that thing that happened. No, everybody was home.
I love that girl's
Everybody,
wallpaper
was
here.
watching when George Floyd died, and everybody, no one could hide it. Everyone was watching when Amy Cooper called the cops. Like, this is a time where it's like, oh, we can't pretend it away. We can't excuse it away. No, 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 no. It's a global timeout. Sit down, watch, and let's learn. And globally, it's like, hey, we were going business as usual, but it ain't usual no more. Like that
Yeah.
that's old. Anytime change occurs, it's very uncomfortable. And so right now we're sitting with we're getting we're getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
The minorities, we've been comfortable with being uncomfortable because that to me explains just the existence for whatever we want to do, how we break into our careers, how we live our lives, how we find ourselves one of the few or one of the
I've got a
first.
few people
And
here,
that's a
few
lonely
snipers.
road. When you look
Joking.
at and when you talk about this global timeout, everybody had to pay attention to Amy Cooper, everyone had to pay attention to George Floyd. How is that helping us as a people, as a country, during our global timeout?
I think, well, one, we're not minorities, Carrie. You already know it. It's like these labels that they put on us. It's
Yeah.
like the same way of
It'd be
saying
so
like
funny if
black
this
on
was
black
copyright and
violence.
I got a
Also,
copyright
there's no
strike.
white on white violence. It's branding,
Yeah,
right? It's
right.
all
Yeah,
branding.
you're right. You're
It's
right.
like white people kill white people every single day. So no, there is no black on black
So,
violence.
so
And if
fidgety.
you say black on black violence, well then let's brand white on white violence. Like I watch
Mhm.
Investigation Discovery. Ain't too many of us being featured. so,
Alright,
I
I'm
just
gonna test that
even
soon.
like but to answer your question, what does
Mm,
that do? I think what everyone expected
okay,
is
no.
what has
That's good.
happened in the
I'm gonna
past
read
when
her
the
on.
world was still open, right? In that, okay, you had everyone from Trayvon Martin to Castillo to Sandra Bland. You had all of these lives lost, and black people made some noise. We rioted. We got out
Oh, sorry
Black
about
Lives
that.
Matter movement, all of those things. And then white people kind of just like, oh, let's give them something. And then it's just like, is it over? It's like Oscars so black. Okay, okay, good. We gave some Oscars. Are we good now? Like, are we even?
Hmm.
And it's now it's just
Hmm.
like, oh no, 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 no. This is not
Oh,
about
I
this
can
is
click
not
and speak
about
up.
like a band-aid. It's like, yo, we might have to amputate the leg a little bit, but it's all right
Wow,
because
that's
we
weird.
gonna by amputating the leg, we're gonna save the body. And so I think that's what's
So,
happening now. Like America is realizing, like, oh, black people aren't just making a little bit of noise. Like the protests are still out. The conversations are still being had. The change is still being demanded. And I
my,
think
this
they're
is funny.
seeing, oh, this is not going away. And no, it's not because we need systematic change.
What a beautiful way to explore what is happening and describe our country. We might have to amputate the leg, but that's to save the body. That's what's
I'm
happening
not
right now.
sure
That's
if I can
beautiful,
make it
Yvonne.
louder.
And to that end, I have to ask you this because the way that we do that, we use our voice. And our voice right now in this world, in this country, is our vote. And everyone talks about voting and how important it is, but I feel like more than ever we understand that it's not just about voting every 4 years for the man in office. It's about your local elections. It's about the mayor. It is about the district attorney, the people who have the power to bring charges against police if police brutality is an issue in your community.
I
If
need
you
to get
care about
Sunbird
your
out of
school
the
district, you
room.
can run for the school board. I ask this of you, right? Your parents are from Nigeria. You are Nigerian. You talk about that very lovingly. What does
That needs to go
voting
away from
mean
me.
for you?
I think voting is power. I remember, I became a naturalized citizen back in the '90s when because I was still a minor. My mom naturalized, and so we were able to do it under her. And just even that power of like we are American citizens and all the access that we have by being citizens. One of those accesses and those access to power being voting. It's a big deal. It's a big deal because not only are we do we have the opportunity to be in this country, but now we can be of the country. We can be of the system, what it actually affords. But I think going back to your earlier comment about just the setup of systems, I think we are done a disservice. Either it's schools or whatever it is, and I'm not putting teachers on blast. I think teachers do a phenomenal job, but for some reason, we do not, and give them all the raises. I know too many parents who are like, I might, this child of mine, I do love them, but hey, who, where can I drop them off? And I do think that there is a disservice done because, again, when we talk about them, to your point, we talk about
Oh,
every 4 years. It's important to vote for the
no.
presidency. We don't realize,
He's
like,
gone.
oh, snap, we actually can vote about, like, how much our libraries get. It's like small things like that, but they make a big difference.
When you think of voter suppression in this country, what does it look like for you?
It's the systems. When we talk about voter suppression, we also talk about systematic racism, right? It's all the systems that set up, and we've normalized. Okay, maybe your job will give you a half day, or maybe you'll be able to get this luxury. It shouldn't
You
be a
have
luxury. It should
ligma.
be built into the system. It should be built into the fact
Oh my gosh. Flint,
in order to enable you
honestly.
to go vote. Think about everything disenfranchised, marginalized, black person has to endure in a day. So in a day, you need to get to work. If something happens to your car, if something happens to your child care, if something happens to, there's so many factors along the way that can send you into a tailspin as an American. And then you add on as a person of color. If you're just trying to get to vote and you already have to go through all of these
I don't
hurdles
know
and
what this is
hoops
going on
in your
about, but I'm just
everyday
going to live
life,
stream the whole thing.
imagine the one day when your voice really is supposed to matter the most in this country, but then you also see all the times that you
Hello.
tried to have your voice matter,
Wee.
and then it's been shut down, repressed, told it doesn't
Why are
matter.
you
um,
How do we keep
because
hope though? If I'm watching this
it's a
right
live
now,
event,
I
and
want to I how do we as a
also
people stay
because
hopeful?
it's
How do
important.
we believe in the promise that these
We
quote
got
unquote
to
forefathers
raise
have given
awareness, you
us?
know.
Because have you met black people? By default, like
I wish I could
hope is
dance.
infused in our
I
DNA.
physically
Like you know what I'm
can't
saying? Like by
dance.
default. Like if we
I wonder if
haven't
I
been
go
broken
far
in,
enough away, and then I
be it through
traversal emote
slavery,
in, will it
through
cut it out?
Give
colonialism,
it to me.
through
Give it to me.
colonization, through segregation,
Why can't
through
I dance? Can I not just dance
black
at all?
the history of black people in this country is at one point we were 3/5 people.
Just gonna change skin.
I'm going to give you money.
Are you how? There you go.
Stop. And I think that's our
Just had
problem.
that
We
giggled
can't
in
By
its
stop
head.
giving
voting.
you
We will
money.
stop voting. We can't stop.
Yeah, I know, but how?
We won't stop thriving.
To that end, because you led me
Viney
directly there,
Audley. Who's the other
I've been
one?
asking everyone who's appeared on this platform, what does activism look like? And I feel like back in the day, we had an idea. Yes, it
I'm
is
now black,
marching.
so.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is protesting. Yes, it is speaking
Hello.
out against things that we feel are not right or unjust. But talk to me about what
I am
activism
gonna
looks
go
like
now
within
by
your
a
community.
Why? Why did you
Many
just write
faces,
that?
right? You're going to have the people on the front lines. Like, you know what? Martin Luther King marched, but there were a lot of women who were in the homes like, hey, BT Dubs, when they come back, this is how we support all the people who are marching on the front lines. And we're going to be here doing what we know to do best here. And you know what? Somebody needs to bail them out of jail so now we need to be in the community, getting money or whatever it is.
The camera
So it's like
quality is
everybody has a
trash.
position to play. And so play your
This
position
woman
like a
needs to
shortstop, bruh. So whoever you are and
have
whatever
this
you
woman's
do,
back now.
play your position. So
I thought you said you were gonna
I'm
go.
not I'm not the one that's built to be on the front line, but you know what? My pockets go deep. So I'm gonna support the people on the front line. I'm a comedian. Black joy is a form of activism.
Oh, okay.
There's
This
always a
is
call
just.
for entertainers or celebrities that have the platform to do something. Why aren't you speaking out? I'm not a believer in thinking that it's mandatory. Like you said, everyone can be an activist and be activated in different ways. But talk to me about the connection. Talk to me about the marginalization in your world and how you feel like it
Re.
even inspires you to say more
No,
and
stay
use your
still.
platform to do more.
Beneath the
Bye.
surface of what we do, like Niecy Nash says, it's the the who, right? The who is the person who's going to be like, hey, let me call this out. Either blind racism in terms overt racism in terms of
Hope you guys
ways
can
that we
see
can be
alright.
better, in terms of ways that we can
Hope
actually
you
be
guys
more
can see the
uplifting
screen
to the
alright.
community that we don't
Just
even
watch
you
it
may
through
not
his
even realize
eyes.
that you're serving.
Before I let you go, talk to me about the urgency, in your opinion, for people to vote, our people to get out and vote
There we
this
go.
coming election.
Hope you guys can see the screen
Yeah,
alright.
I mean,
You know?
guys,
Just let me know.
if you think you're
Flynn, I know you're still
tired
there.
now, I'm telling you right now, we
I know you're still there.
understand that it
I can
may be
see.
hard to figure out
It
who
says
to
that
vote
there's one
for,
viewer.
but at the end of the day,
Yeah,
we
go
got to
to this
vote for
website,
our
people,
families. We got to
and
vote for our
donate
legacies. We got to vote
something. I don't
for
know what they do
continued
on their
progress.
website, but do it.
We have to vote for upward mobility. We have to vote for
Oh my gosh, I've got this
equality in
awful
a way
idea.
that is
It's really funny at the same
long
time.
lasting. And if we succeeded before, we can do it again. You talk about the whole. This is
Aw, I
this is the
was gonna get on
time.
top of this rock and
This
say I
is
was
this is
Simba.
not the time to give up. This
Flynn, I know you're still there.
isn't made progress we have. There's still much
Scampy
more
Cat
to be done.
is
And you know
watching.
what? We might have to get to a point where we pass the baton to our
I thought
children
you
and
was
our
dancing
children's
then.
children, but we still have work to do now for that generation.
Von Orgy, you are everything. You are Molly, but you are not Molly, but I love you so much as Molly on HBO's Insecure. You are an amazing podcaster, Jesus and Jola. Shout out to Lovey. And then we also have movies. Like you, the world, you're a model, a cover model. Also, wait, don't let me forget your hugely successful stand up comedy special on HBO. Girl, you doing it all. And I am so grateful. You're
Girl!
truly the dream, not just the American dream. You're the black girl, brown girl, do it all dream, the immigrant
I thought
immigrant
black
dream,
was brown.
everything. You're a beautiful, beautiful soul. I
I,
really, really mean that from the
I'm,
bottom of my
okay,
heart.
I'm confused. I'm
Yvonne
not gonna
Orgy,
ask any
ladies and
questions.
gentlemen, nothing but the best and excellence personified. Thank you so much, my friend.
I love you so much, Mama. Mwah.
Mama, this is probably copyrighted.
Yeah, la.
This is
So
definitely.
Atlanta has been one of the
Oh no, it
hotbeds
said
in
who
terms of
wrote the song
political
as well, and I
unrest
went
and
into
social
settings.
injustice. We've seen so much happen in that city, and
I
we've
thought it was
also
gonna
seen so
end.
much
Ugh.
come from that city, including one of our very own founders,
Flint, I know you're still there.
King Jr. But right now, we want to welcome
You're
in
just
someone
so
who has
interested
used
in it,
his
aren't you, Flynn?
platform to talk about voting, to talk about racial injustice, and how he's trying to help. Atlanta's
Someone's
very
watching at
own
least. I don't
Russ
know if it's you,
joins
Flynn.
us now on We the People. Russ, I'm not going to fan
Oh,
out and tell you what some of my favorite songs were that I listened to repeat on yours. We're going to get to the topic at hand. So we got to talk about recently you
yep.
did an interview where you shared your outlook on culture and music. And you also were very candid about the fact that you have a privilege and that it's necessary for you to give back. Tell everybody about what that means.
As like it's very obvious, I'm white and I'm in black
Couldn't
culture
tell.
and I'm benefiting financially off of it. So I feel like if you're a white person financially benefiting off of black culture, you have to put finances back into black culture. It's just that simple. The screenshots with your feelings, it just comes off like fake empathy because it comes off very dismissive and very oh, that sucks for y'all. But anyway, back to what I was doing.
Have you felt that way always, or is it now because of the time of where we are in this country?
I've always had the feeling. I think now it's just obviously elevated. It's a new level, and there's new, it's to the point now where you can't. First of all, you can't not say anything. Second of all, though, I just think saying something isn't enough anymore. I think if you have the ability to put money back into a culture that you're financially benefiting from, you have the ability to. You should.
it's interesting that you talk about it in that way because some people do believe that silence is the best way to go because it's hard to talk race, especially if you're white and you're in the black culture. People
Depends what
just feel
race
as
it
if
is.
they
If
can't
it's
talk about it.
a
They feel
car
they feel
race,
as
I'm
if they don't
joking.
have the privilege or
I'm
the
joking.
voice or the words. How do you find yourself right now in terms of interacting with people when they want to talk to you about social injustice, police brutality? What's going on in this country right now?
Well, first of all, picking and choosing whether you want to be silent or not about race, that's a privilege in and of itself. But no, I mean, I try to just do my
Okay,
best
it is sound effects.
to listen to the
There you go.
black people around me and the educated black people I have in my life. So I do my best
Still
to
watching it. I'm just gonna do
not
something.
act
I've
like
got
I
to change
have all
the
the
skin
answers
again,
for everything, especially in a culture that I'm not from. But that's why when we decided to raise the money,
Let's be giddy up. Lives matter, you know. How did that guy just did a
and people who really need it. It's just about listening. That's all.
Let's,
It's about listening.
let's talk about that for a moment because the way I think of activism for me,
There you go.
it looks very different.
What's that
It's not
website?
necessarily just
Karen
protesting
Civil
on
is the
front
founder
lines. I
of
think
Live
that's
Civil
great.
Foundation,
But
helping
what
our
about
communities and create
being an
opportunities
activist
for
in the
people
way in which
to
you
live,
have
work,
decided to be one?
and play.
What inspired you? What did it look like? You said you raised money for Black Lives Matter. What did you do?
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through everything that you did and how you find yourself in this moment right now.
So for me, it was 3 years ago. I had like a string of festivals, and I decided that I was going to wear T-shirts with a message on them because I figured, what better, what better time to use a platform than in front of a bunch of people. So one of the
I would
T-shirts I
totally wear
wore
Deadpool with that back
was,
in like years, but
"If you want to change the system,
I've got a plan.
speak up. White silence is pro-racism. The whole thing." And it didn't really it kind of got swept under the rug back then. But when all this stuff started happening again, and it's been happening, the police brutality against innocent black people, I was like, man, I'm not the biggest artist in the world, and I certainly don't have the most white fans in the world, but I got a good amount of people that I can definitely mobilize and turn into some money. And I know they're down for the cause because it's merch, it's a good thing. And I've always been outspoken anyway, And so how am I going to be in black
It looks
culture and
like he's
not
in
be
a restaurant.
outspoken about racism?
And then I got to ask you this because you grew up in Atlanta, so that gives you a heads up, depending for so many people, because you're in the crux of that beautiful black city where there are so many wonderful black leaders, almost so much great music and things that speak to our culture right now. And we are really, really getting our word out, especially with this platform today, and saying that we must
Fortnite
use
is a
our
platform,
voice
by the way, guys.
to vote. Importance of voting for you in this upcoming election.
Yeah, so full transparency, I had never voted before, ever. And because I was one of those people who was like, my vote doesn't matter, and I don't know, maybe it's because I was younger, maybe it's because I really thought that, or I don't know, but I just think that it's got to, now this is a bit of a privilege to say it's got to a breaking point for me, because obviously it's been past the breaking point for black people, but I think that as a whole, the young people need to get out and vote, because we're the ones that never show up. You know what I mean? We never show up to vote, but we're the future. So it's like, look, we got to go out there and vote, and then whatever happens, happens. But at least we did our part. You got to do your part.
You're very candid in saying that you just decided to vote, and I think there's a beautiful irony in the fact that you have your fans saying, "Because of you, I'm voting." Right. And there's something beautiful about that. But I want
You could wear this one. I don't like that skin. It's all about wearing what skin, You could wear fish. That's a race. Or wear fade. He's a new one. I'm watching this whole show. Wouldn't it be funny if it ended while I was doing that and I come back and it's
I think me, along with a lot of other people, just kind of was like, all right, like, words are simply not enough anymore. We gotta do something, whether it's
this guy's been standing there for a while.
Raising money, whether it's voting or all the above. Like it's we got to do something, you know. And I'm ashamed that it took that for me to be like, I need to raise money and I need to vote. You know, it's a shame. And I don't know, it just, I guess it snapped a bunch of people out of it, you know? And even if you were vocal and whatnot, it's just, it's time to actually put your money where your mouth is. It's time to go vote. You know, it's time to just stop talking about it and be about it, you know? And it's been time for that, but like I said, you know, I'm ashamed that it took me this long to actually really be about it, but I'm here now.
So, Russ, we all know that this is going to be your first time voting. Tell me what that
Yeah.
experience is going to be like for you in terms of what you're excited about.
I think you know what it's gonna do for me? It's gonna let me know that I'm contributing to something bigger than myself and I'm actually putting my money where my mouth is and I'm being about it because you know for so long and I know I'm not alone with this but you know standing on the outside and just screaming about this and that and this should change and it's like all right but did you vote you know and so I'm you know I know it's going to feel good to know that I played a small role you know and that's the problem I think the mentality of like my vote doesn't matter needs to be changed to my vote, albeit small, does matter. It's a role I'm playing, and if I play my part and you play your part, and he and she plays their part, then we make a difference. But you know, it'll feel. I have a feeling it's gonna it's gonna feel very bigger than me. I mean, I think when you realize that giving uh, actually feels better than receiving, that's when you start wanting to do your part and contribute. So voting is an easy way to give. You know.
Yeah. To whom much is given, much is required, and you have been given a huge platform, and we are so grateful for you, Russ. Philanthropist, artist, community activist, first time voter. We appreciate you for doing
Yes.
this, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, la la.
So, cities like Atlanta and Chicago have been at the
How long
forefront
is
of
this
the
gonna go
discussions,
for?
especially now in
I
this
have to
country
stop
when we're talking
streaming at
about COVID
11.
19 and systemic racism, as well
Right, guys,
as
I'm just gonna leave
police
it. I'll be
brutality and
right
what
back.
we can do in this country.
You guys just
Again,
watch
we're
this.
continuing our conversation, letting you know that your voice is your vote and your vote is your voice. We can change where we are in this country. Currently, I'd like to welcome in Chicago Cubs right fielder Jason Hayward. I appreciate you. I brought in Atlanta and Chicago because I know you grew up in the metropolitan area of Atlanta, more specifically McDonough. Let's be technical, and and you have been very vocal throughout this entire time in terms of what our country's been experiencing. Let's look at the past month and a half, if you will. What has been the hardest thing for you to deal with?
The hardest thing for me to deal with, Carrie, this last month has just been going from the virus shutting everything down to us being, we've had multiple police brutality situations. We've had people protesting, wanting to get the message out. But I really realized that I need to be a part of the positive message and make sure that doesn't get lost in all the chaos going on for people to actually hear from a reasonable, respectable person who cares about everyone involved.
A reasonable, respectable person who cares about everyone involved, which leads us to More Than a Vote. It is a beautiful collective of Black athletes and artists. You are a part of that. Talk to me about why that's important for you right now and this be a part of that collective.
To me personally, it's important to be a part of that because I've somewhat used baseball and my craft as an excuse to not get more involved in voting. But I can't any longer use baseball and work as an excuse not to get educated and not also to show people like at any moment in time, any walk of life, we can make a difference.
So tell me in your words, what does activism look like for you?
In my words, it looks like LeBron James, the biggest athlete right now on the planet, speaking up and breaking the ice for everyone.
LeBron
And I think for the
James.
first time, people see and hear from us. So now we have white teammates, we have other people speaking up and realizing, okay, like this is how we go about doing this. And to me, right now, social media, athletes speaking up, entertainers speaking up, like we're trying to do with More Than a Vote.
You said something I thought was so key because covering sports for so long, I know that it's tough for Black players specifically in Major League Baseball to talk about how they feel Adam Jones did it in a very eloquent way early on, but there are very few that are vocal. You said you all were afraid. Why use that word and why were you afraid?
You was afraid because in 2019 there were 68 of us total, and there are 38 teams. There's 25-man roster on each team. There's a 40-man roster, which is on each team as well, and there aren't many of us. So we're outnumbered in that sense, but not always in a negative way when it comes to our teammates and our clubhouses. But to get to this point, you have to move a certain way. You got to be careful what you say. You can't ruffle feathers. You can't come off in any way. Much like other black entertainers, much like yourself, probably having to live through life every day. But to get to the highest level, you got to button up. You got to be seen and not heard. So baseball is, like I said, it was time for us to try and speak up and make a difference and show it's okay to do so because we can't be quiet any longer.
That is a button up, be quiet, be seen but not heard. That is a an expression that a lot of Black folks can relate to in whatever aspect of professionalism that they experience, especially if they don't work for themselves. They just feel that. That is also a socialization that we have as Black folks, well, especially like you said, if you want to get to the higher level. And for so long, I felt it bubbling right underneath the surface that so many of us who were in whatever positions we were, who had platforms, were tired of pretending and looking the other way and spending so much time making others comfortable while we were uncomfortable. Do you feel that this is the type of movement that is sustainable, or is it just for a time?
No, it takes everyone joining in on the conversation, and right now I feel like more than ever there is little things as possible to distract from bigger issues. And we saw on draft day, we saw our president Theo Epstein holding up the sign saying Black Lives Matter and wanting to
Yeah,
include the rest
yeah.
of MLB in that. But now we're having those conversations as well. So I definitely think this is sustainable, and it's not always just going to be the popular thing to do. This is something that people want to get right because they know we care.
Jason, you said you think it's sustainable, that what you're seeing, especially with your colleagues in baseball, that this can be more comfortable, feeling more safe to share how you feel about social injustice and police brutality. What are you doing right now in this moment with your platform
That's
to
Deadpool.
help change how we look at voting
Deadpool.
and how to educate the culture and the community about voting?
Well, first, what I'm doing, Carrie, is joining up with More Than a Vote and joining up with other athletes and entertainers to get that message out and use our platform in that sense as a group. And
Oh,
try to create a brand with
I'm
this to make
gonna
it something that's not
I'm gonna
just
mess
about
around
the
with
election
these
coming. Make
votes.
sure that it's about people getting educated for years to come and figure out where to vote and how to vote. We've got people in different areas that cover different demographics.
I'm gonna really mess with these votes. Oh, yeah, get messed around with. Oh, I am Deadpool. It is I, the Deadpool with the back. I'm just gonna mess around with it. I'm gonna pretend that
Carrie to want to play baseball. It's not lame. It's not something I have to be as afraid of as I was before. So I feel like that's my role in this. I have a younger brother as well. He's 24.
this
He
guy's
also
been
plays
standing there
baseball.
for
So
half an hour.
I've got to lead by example. I can't just always, come up with a good answer that sounds good on TV. When I get asked a question on, what do we need to do to make changes,
Where did the other
I'm
people
joining up
go?
here to make sure that I take action and
No.
get educated myself. For one, so many people, I feel like in Atlanta, they're on the move. Well, when you want to try to make a vote and try and cast your vote, you have to do it by mail. You have to sign up for the absentee ballot. Then you have to get another ballot in return. They have to send it back to you.
Wow.
But for me personally,
There's
they
only
didn't
4
send
people.
that back until it was too late.
What is this back
Right? We
question?
didn't get it in the mail to the address that's an Atlanta address at my parents' house. We didn't get that in the mail until it was too late. And then from other friends and family that are still in Georgia right now, I just hear about them being held in lines too long and trying to get off work. And we know how it is for any family, but let alone a black family
I was
in the
watching
city
through your head.
or in the suburbs trying to take care of
Watch
their
through
family
your
and trying
head
to
again.
provide for them. You try to get off work, and then you're like, wait a minute. You start looking at the clock. It's like, oh, this is not going to happen today, right? And so I saw, Mayor Keisha Bottoms, reach out via social media to people and say, hey, I'm going to address these issues right now. I need y'all to stay in line to cast your votes. Keep hanging in there. So to me in Georgia, that's what that looks like.
Well, it's interesting that you even bring that up because there have been all these images, specifically from Georgia, because that's such a battleground, where you see people, especially when it came to the primaries, doing whatever it takes. And this is real life voter suppression that you're talking about. It's been happening for decades. It's not fake. What you're saying, these examples of sending you your ballot too late after the fact, shutting down the polls at 6 o'clock while people still are in line, that's a real life issue. There needs to be some type of change. And I think that what we're doing right now is
So
fair.
guys, just
But the
basically,
idea of
this is
voter
about
suppression,
Black
do you
Lives
think that
Matter
that
and about
is well
more than a
known,
vote,
especially with folks, within the generation, your generation?
and
I
that
think it's
this woman,
known
I think her name
in
is
our
Carrie.
communities,
She's
right? I
interviewing
don't think
different
it's spoke on enough. I don't think there's
black
been enough light drawn
and
to it.
well,
Bring it
not
to
only
light.
black but just
Let people hear about it. Let people learn
influencers
about what
like
that looks
a
like,
comedian, a
and get more
rapper.
people to say,
This guy is
okay,
an
look, like
athlete,
this is going to happen.
and
We
they're
have
just
to
having their
expect
point of
this, and we can no
view
longer make the excuse. We can't say they didn't warn us.
and
Jason, everybody
ask,
knows,
like,
or
kind
it
of
feels as
interviewing
if
them.
everyone knows that the time is now. America's paying attention to us. We have their eyes, we have their ears. If you look toward the future, what are you most excited about in terms of seeing a change?
I'm excited about how fast the word is traveling. The word is being spread right now. The biggest athletes, the biggest icons, biggest entertainers are doing their part. But I'm also seeing people out there on the streets doing their part. When so many things got lost, could have very easily got in the in the commotion when it came to protests, and you saw rioting, you saw looting. People still stood their ground, and people still went out there and said, "Look, we're doing this for the right reasons. We're going to come together. We're going to use drones. We're going to use social medias." I feel like this is a new wave of getting things done the right way and just spreading the message.
You're right about that. And you're right. People are spreading the word unapologetically. We out here. We doubling down. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Right.
Yeah, la la.
Hey, everybody. I am so excited to welcome a friend, a brother, family member, if you will, former colleague, NBA great, sports analyst, philanthropist.
Oh my god!
He does it all. And he's here
Imagine
to
having the
give
pack
us
and using that.
his time and his platform to talk about something that is so important, and that is voting. Everybody, welcome Jalen Rose to We the People. Talk to me about how important it is for the people who know you and love you and look up to you. Why is it so important that
16
you use
minutes
your
until
platform
I
to
have
talk
to end
about
this,
voting?
guys.
Initially, we have to get past the stigma of the mental systemic racism that comes with the presidential race, governors, mayors, senators, judges. We've been conditioned to believe that our vote does not matter. So usually when we looked up at all of those races and people that were running, not only did they not look like us, we didn't believe they were there to represent our best interests. So therefore, as a collective, we didn't mobilize until Barack Obama, and we felt a sense of hope that finally our country is going to do something that we felt would never happen in our lifetime. And I remember being at the inauguration in 2008. I made sure I was there. And we voted. In 2016, we didn't vote, Carrie. We didn't vote. And so many people try to make this political. This is not political. Me telling somebody to vote is like telling somebody to pay taxes. So that's one, getting over the stigma of nobody is going to represent our best interest. And then number two, the reality is that the person that gets the most votes doesn't necessarily win the presidency. That's uncomfortable right there, because that's actually what took place in 2016. The Electoral College chose the president. And if you put all of their pictures up, I'm pretty sure they look a lot more like each other than they look like you and I. How about that? And then the third thing, especially in urban environments, oh man, they create barriers for us, Carrie. It's like you got to jump over the fence, you got to run past the dog, you got to jump on the hood of the car. The lines is 5 hours long. You get up to the poll and they don't work. Elderly people working in the city, while they got the young people who understand technology working in the suburbs. Like, these are all systematic things that try to discourage us from voting. And then finally, we don't have a day off to vote. We need to work. So we don't get a day off. It's going to be a full day. and I got to work to pay my bills. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to mail in vote. And you know what you want people to realize, that that counts too. So your vote will be counted if you're able to mail it in. So those are a few things that I hope that we can do and mobilize. And shout to LeBron and his team. Shout to you and everybody involved. We will make a difference.
Well, let's talk about more than a vote. There is a black collective of athletes, of artists coming together and saying voter suppression is a real deal, especially in the black community. When you just talked about, I got to work, so I can't go vote. And then when we do get in the booth, just in case we don't have to work, do we know who we're voting for? Not only do we have to vote, we got to be educated. And it's not always even about the man who's in office or the woman who's in office for president. It's about your local elections. It's about the people who are your DAs, your state DAs, like the people who actually make change in your community, who will change police brutality, who will make sure that your community is taken care of, who will defund police and hope that they can help you in stopping police brutality. So talk to me about why you decided to be a part of More Than a Vote and what it actually means.
Well, it means a lot to be involved with such an impressive collective, as you mentioned. And I said this multiple times, and I know it can be uncomfortable when I say it, but a lot of times we have to get.
We're back changing our look because we need to be flexing on the MPV. Flexing is fun.
Also sometimes disappointing about our role as black people in America, because we were brought here as labor and to entertain. And we use those vehicles to get paid and move to the suburbs and be the idols of white kids. And so now that we have this collective, I would say sports and entertainment represent the most powerful group of black men in the United States. I'm talking about money, power, celebrity, the ability to mobilize, community involvement, their leadership, their intellect. And so to have all of us pull it in the same direction at the same time for anything that we're passionate about is going to be a difference maker, but it's definitely going to be a difference maker in the 2020 vote, because we're going to make sure we inform everybody that they can let their voice be heard, and failure is not an option.
Jalen, what does voter suppression look like to you?
That's a bit of a problem,
A
that.
perfect example took place recently,
I can still
Carrie,
see it.
in Kentucky. It was 6 p.m. at night, and so many people were standing in line enthusiastic to vote. And you know
Am I
what they
gonna go
did?
back
Lock
up?
the doors. And you know what the people did? They
Uh-oh.
continued to bang on the door.
Like, oh my god, there's
Continued to
waves.
bang
That's
on the
cool.
windows. They continued to let it be known
That's
they
really
were
cool.
not going to leave the premises until they got a chance to vote. And you know what ended up happening?
Sorry about this,
They
guys.
opened those doors
I didn't
and
expect
allowed
that I'd be
those
stuck
people
down
to
there.
vote. So do not be discouraged. These barriers show you that it matters. And we're here to help you break through. The same thing with our platforms and voices, Gary, because you know what's going to happen. At some point, Breonna Taylor is not going to be trending anymore. People are not going to be protesting anymore. But it's still up to us to keep making sure that our voices get
There he
heard,
is.
and this is one way to do so.
Right, and that is a form of being activated, being an activist. It doesn't have to be protesting. It doesn't have to look like what you think traditionally activism looks like. It's voting. It's that simple.
We now have to understand, like, this is a critical mass moment for this movement to continue to.
Oh! Did it end?
Are in our
Oh.
phones. All of these barriers are things that people will need to overcome in order to create a level of enthusiasm to vote. And again, this is not political. It's your right to
Bet you
do
anything
so.
that game leaf is
And
the.
there's so many
Yep.
times where you feel like somebody may have gotten done unjustly in your community.
Wait a
Pay
minute.
attention to who the judges are, who's
Boop.
running for Senate, mayor, governor. Pay attention who's running for president. And let's make sure in 2020 we make a difference.
Why is more than a vote so important and invaluable in our community right now?
Well, because
Oh,
right
great.
now, I think we have an opportunity to let our voices be heard louder than ever.
Do I not have like?
Anytime you see the mobilization of white kids holding Black Lives Matter signs, that means there's a breakthrough. Now, what happens with
No,
that
I don't
breakthrough
want gifts.
is the next step. You're going to look down in your email, Carrie. You're going to see all of these companies telling you how they're going to work on their diversity, how they're looking themselves in the mirror. They need to make change, just like in sports, right? You look on the field and on the court, all those black players. Further you get up, it's like altitude or a ladder. It gets thinner and thinner. And so a lot of people talk about the system being broken. I hate to remind people that it's not broken, it was built this way. And one of our ways to help change the system is to vote.
Comment down below if you're
So
actually paying
that's why
attention to what
more
they're
than a
saying.
vote is so very important, so we can make sure everybody participates and gives themselves an opportunity to let their voice be heard.
I think it's interesting because you talked about black men being very powerful in the U.S. if they're athletes and entertainers, because for so long those have been the only avenues traditionally to create wealth. The NBA season comes back. What are your feelings on the season coming back in the midst of everything that is happening?
I think you'll see players challenging the establishment more. You're going to see them saying, okay, if you have all of these marketing and promotional deals, how many of them are with minorities? How many people are you employing in NBA? What about certain teams? Who do you have as a minority owner? Or what about the candidates that you have? Blacks, that they are now movers and shakers in the game. They're now the dog, not the tail. So if they decide not to play, some of the biggest social changes and conversations have taken place in sports that weren't during the game. Colin Kaepernick was before the game. The Ali Summit was a press conference. So they could mobilize if they chose to. But when and if you do play, challenge the league. Black Lives Matter on the jerseys. Continue to make sure that every time people are watching the game, they're also seeing the movement happen.
You are always entertaining and informative at once. I really, truly am looking forward to the NBA season. Thank you for working with More Than a Vote, because your voice, your platform, all of it is needed, my friend. Be safe, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I love
Remember
and
to
appreciate you. One
subscribe.
call away always.
Thank you. Love you, brother.
Love you too.
Every conversation that we had today, I hope was helpful for you. I am so grateful to everyone who came on with me to talk about what's going on in our culture and how we need to change.
And help
Huge
these
shout
charities.
out to Jalen. Their words were inspiring, but also important and invaluable. I hope your phone is full with all the information that we've been able to place.
So guys, please go to this
Again, you need to
website.
check out these resources
Check out it.
because they are so
See if
important,
there's
because we
anything
want you to
that-
vote. That is your voice. It is important. We, the people, want you to vote. So go to morethanavote.org, fairfight.com, and whenweallvote.org. Again, thank you so much for joining us and paying attention.
Yep, guys,
because
hope you
this
listen to
message,
that.
again, is invaluable. I'm Carrie Champion for We the People.
So, that's the end of the live stream, guys. I hope you guys all found it quite interesting. It was. Quite interesting. And I will see you guys in the next live episode, live stream or something. Goodbye.